The views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sunprairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sunprairie.
Hello and welcome to Real Reviews. We're starting our Halloween episodes early. My name is Jameson Rabbit, and this week I'm so happy to be joined by a guy who I refer to as a reverse vampire. He loves to sleep at night, he loves garlic and a little bit of sunlight. It's Mike Roth.
I'm sorry, you got me totally mistaken. It says right here, Jackie Daytona, human bartender.
Oh, nothing to see here.
I'm just a regular old bartender, not a vampire at all.
Not a vampire?
But, if you take this out, I'm going to let everybody see.
Yeah. Vampire!
Yep.
Oh, tricky, tricky.
If you don't know, it's from the television show What We Do in the Shadows. This is his persona, Jackie Daytona, when he runs Lucky's Brews. Do that, he's Laszlo.
I love it. Costumes within costumes, this is great stuff. Mike Roth back on the show, man.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I've been excited all day, almost so much where my hair just went black.
Yeah, I've noticed. You were the silver fox when we saw you last, and now...
It's now a white fox. I'm just totally white.
Ron Popeil hair spray and stuff. I love it. I could use some of that. We're at episode 493 now, Mike. What do you think about that? We're just cruising along.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's been a little while.
Yeah, it's been 9 years. It's
9 plus. Yeah. Here we go. But we are here to talk about some movies. We have a spooktacular episode. It's all horror movies all the time.
I noticed that.
Yeah, it just happened to land that way. And I'm going to go ahead and get us started with what we saw on the marquee. And this was great because this film, Mike and I just happened to show up in the same movie at the same theater at the same time.
It was great because I was doing that Charlie Brown walk with my head. I'm like, no one wants to go to this dumb movie with me. And there you were.
Ready to go.
But I didn't say it was dumb. No,
all right. So what we have here is the newest Saw film, Saw X, from director Kevin Grudert. He also directed Saw 6 and Saw 3D. This is a bit of a prequel. We go back a little ways. Tobin Bell is back as John Kramer. John Kramer now is dying and suffering from cancer. And after being told about a miracle treatment by a fellow cancer survivor, he flies to Mexico for a miracle experimental treatment that is promised to save his life. And unfortunately, of course, John ended up unhappy with the results of this procedure he went down for. And of course, Jigsaw John loves to hold people accountable for their actions.
He's helping them.
Yeah. With the help of an old friend and apprentice, Amanda, in a very short amount of time, he builds another insanely intricate torture chamber in the building of one of his victims.
In record time, if I might add.
With one nightfall, and he's like, I've got it all built, replete with reel-to-reel recordings and several redundancies in case things don't go down right.
I'm pretty sure Amanda did not go with him on his flight to Kira's.
Right.
He's like, hey, Amanda, pick up the doll.
Yeah, we need the doll, of course.
Need the
doll. Get the tricycle.
I mean, I'm short on time, but I got a lot of fun stuff planned, and I want the theatrics.
Yes. And that part of the film of like how he's able to turn this place that was supposed to be a medical facility, and he had all the torture equipment right there in their basement or whatever. It's all so unrealistic. But of course, for me, quibbling about that with a Saw movie is like quibbling with Fast films, the Fast franchise, about ridiculous stunts and bad writing. It comes to be expected.
But originally it didn't come with this, and that's the sad thing. It's the very first Saw movie for a pretty much a horror gore flick.
Yes.
It was well written, and it didn't have much of a budget, and I was kind of excited. What are you going to do next? Now, the second one definitely wasn't that great, but it's still a horror movie that's like, okay, yeah, cool. I could watch that again. 3, 2, 9 have been horrible.
Yeah, this might be my least favorite franchise because I skipped a couple, and then when I entered in on Jigsaw again, I was like, this movie's terrible. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, I kind of enjoyed this more than I thought it would be. I went in really dragging my feet, and I thought that the film set out to make John Kramer the sympathetic character,
Yeah.
which is unreal. But so you have to create someone who's even worse than him, and that's what they attempted to do.
Yeah.
You know, and that I found that kind of interesting, at least, in that they try to set up this moral conundrum between him and the other characters.
Well, they kind of tried doing this in the past,
Right.
unsuccessfully, because, I mean, he is slowly torturing people, and he has this moral code where he's like, and sorry for talking weird, I guess. He has this moral code where he's trying to turn people around, and the only person I really feel like he's turned around was Amanda, and she's just a basket case. She wants to kill. So
He's unsuccessful at his
he's
mission.
unsuccessful, but he feels like he did it once, and it worked out pretty good.
Right, keep trying.
Yeah.
I love that one of the torture devices that he made within a few hours
That's what I'm
was
guessing.
so specific that it looked like a statue that we had seen earlier in the movie. It's like custom made.
He had a molding process and everything. He's a very talented person. And I remember, because we watched a movie together, I bursted out laughing when the Jigsaw
The doll comes
doll
rolling
came
out.
out.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah. We both.
Really? Really? I mean, I get it, but
It's
that's
so
some
silly.
extra time to build all this stuff.
Yeah.
And we really don't know how long it takes them to build this, but you assume it's really quick.
Well, we see that the people he's going after are trying to get out of the country. Like, they do their thing and they're packing up to leave. So it's like bang, bang.
Maybe it was during COVID.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and another thing that they don't tell you about is this timeline isn't way in the future because it's a 10th movie.
Yeah.
They backtrack it to be in between 1 and 2, but they really didn't tell you.
They never said
So,
that. And I'm
it's
sure
kind of a surprise.
I'm not a Saw completist, so I'm sure there's lots of Saw Easter eggs in there that people will love. But I can only judge it on what I've seen. You know, I don't know.
Wow. Well, your score's not going to be great. No, sorry.
Well, speaking of which, let's go to the scores. What did you give Saw X?
I gave Saw X a 2. It is less than good. It's better than the others, so, I mean, whatever.
So here's the thing. I hate this franchise.
Yeah.
But this movie, I thought was decently written for the Saw movies. And I gave this an incredibly weak 3 stars. I feel like three is way too much. But I did feel like 2.5 was not enough for this movie. It's a 2.75.
There's a lot to be said about going in with the worst expectations and then walking out going.
And I will say, sitting there with a friend of mine, you know, to chop it up a little bit, probably helped it. I might have left before it was over otherwise.
Yeah, otherwise you wouldn't have gotten the giggles.
That's true. That's true. Let's move on to what else we had on the big marquee this week. What do you have for us?
I'll take that one. It is Exorcist Believer. This is an Exorcist movie directed by David Gordon Green, and it is written by Peter Sattler, the screenplay. But the characters are all based on William Peter Blatty's, which was really popular back in 1979. I remember going to the theater during that time.
All the time, yeah.
I remember hearing about how scary it was.
All right.
Linda Blair being great. So, weird thing, Linda Blair is first billed, but Linda Blair is not in this movie. So if you are just a huge Linda Blair fan, you're going to be very disappointed until the last 10 minutes of the film. That's not really a spoiler. I feel like they kind of spoiled the movie a little bit by saying Linda Blair stars in this movie. Yeah. It's unfair to all the people who buy tickets. But anywho, as far as an Exorcist movie, it kind of follows the same tropes as the original and a lot of other Exorcist movies. We have Leslie Odom Jr. playing Victor Fielding. He is missing his kid. It starts off with him and his wife on vacation, and bad things happen. You can see in the preview right there. And he becomes a single father raising someone, and this is what he pours all his life in.
Might I add, one of the worst fathers in the world. The way he disregards the rules of a drop-off line in front of a school is infuriating.
Oh, there's a lot of
He's
things
monster.
that I was really angry about. It's like, haven't you ever seen an Exorcist movie? But
Right.
I digress. His daughter is played by Lydia Lewitt. She is Angela, a decent actress. I think they did pretty good at casting.
Yeah.
And the other child that shows up missing is Olivia O'Neill, who plays Catherine. These are 12-year-old girls that go out to the woods to do a little seance to get a hold of Angela's mom. But, you know, things like that don't really happen in horror movies, only terrible things. And they go disappearing for 3 days. They come back 3 days later, obviously possessed, and that's where you see about 2 hours of tropes of things you've seen in every single Exorcist movie. Not just this one, but offshoots that try to copy other ones.
Only this time, what if there's 2 girls?
I know,
who
and
are
that's what I was
possessed?
thinking the entire time. It's like, oh, we tried everything already, but wait, we haven't had 2 people we had to exorcise at the same time.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't like knowing what's happening, but you knew exactly how this was going to end because they dropped these little tidbits that make you go, oh, yeah, this is going to be how it ends, and then you have to watch all these theatrics until it finally ends. Not going to tell you in case you didn't figure it out as you're watching it, but, I mean, it looks pretty. It's better than Exorcist 2.
The problem is the Exorcist franchise has been one legendary movie and a bunch of crap, I feel like.
And I feel like that's how most of these movies are.
They are. This was David Gordon Green who resurrected the Halloween franchise in 2019, whatever. And I felt like just made worse and worse Halloween sequels after that.
Yeah.
And this movie, I found myself realizing partway through, this is the plot to Halloween Kills, the second one. Halloween Kills, you have Jamie Lee Curtis as the iconic character, Laurie Strode, who spends most of the movie in a hospital room, while the regular people go out to kill evil. This movie, we bring Ellen Burstyn as the iconic character of the original one. She spends most of the movie in a hospital room, while because the Catholic Church doesn't want to get involved, regular people got to go out and we're going to take evil down.
And that is one thing else that they did different. Instead of a Catholic priest,
we didn't get a young
you had
priest.
Everything in the same, every sect in the same denomination, all trying to do their hand. And there we go. So 2 exorcists and a bunch of, lots of exorcists.
I
and
know
2
from the past,
characters.
we need a young priest and an old priest. That's what you need to do.
But they've done it, and they've been desperately to try to recapture that. One of the things that is completely different from 1979 and now is our audience is jaded. We've seen all the special effects. Back in 79, what Linda Blair was doing with her head and the vomit and all this stuff, that was shocking. And the special effects was fantastic.
Still holds up. Still better
holds
than
up.
anything.
Just looking back at it as like a history film and go, okay, yeah, they've improved some things, but you could appreciate the age and the thought and the creative talent that went into this movie, and then afterwards, it just goes downhill. Like most horror movies, I think there's only one franchise where I'm like, yeah, the best movie is Deeper In.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll talk about that later. I'm
might.
not really sure.
I felt like this, I've never been so bored watching a possession movie. I felt like they were trying so hard to attach to the original. You know, this is a sequel eliminating all the other ones, much like he did with Halloween. Like, no, this is the sequel to the original. And they're like trying to use the Reagan character and the Reagan name so much for the cachet of that character. And we're talking about, we're scratching her name into wood, and we're watching videos of her. But I feel like it's a cheap way to try and like get the cachet of that original that's such a masterpiece. And it felt lazy to me.
They really could have cut all that out, which then they would lose Linda Blair as the star role.
Yeah.
And that's what I
okay.
think some people came in, but they could have cut all that out and no one would have noticed.
I felt like all of the Reagan stuff was really just window dressing to a kind of mediocre film. And I don't know. The original is just a standard bearer for me in horror and possession films and all of that. And rewatching it recently, it still works for me. It's great. And it's effective, and it was revolutionary. And this is just another Exorcist sequel.
Yeah. And
that's all it is.
It's unfortunate because I do like horror movies, but I like horror movies that are good. And I really don't see it with most of these sequels.
Well, and the thing with the original, rewatching that recently, was it never stopped. It was like obsessed with building tension, building atmosphere the entire way. No breaks.
Yep.
This movie took plenty of breaks from building that atmosphere. And we got to go and we got to deal with the dad, Catherine's dad and his issues. And we got to deal with Ann Dowd's character of the nurse and her wandering off. And it pulls back the tension as you start to build it up. And it didn't work for me.
And also, originally had that awesome score by Paul Oakenfold.
Yes, right.
So that right there, that is still
character.
iconic.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
What can you do, and what did you score it?
Well, what did you score it, first of all?
Well,
I'm asking you.
I gave it a 1.5. It's got even lower than Saw.
That's not good.
I'm not happy. I'm just not happy.
You don't look happy.
No.
Take a swig. I give it 2 stars. It's less than mediocre. It's right on par with any of the other ones of these. It's disappointing, and I feel like David Gordon Green kind of revealed himself to be a one-trick pony, because he really did just crib off of Halloween Kills. It's frustrating.
And those movies really weren't that great either.
No, that first one was fun, but then they got real bad.
It's like Michael Bay. No one's figured out how bad he is yet, so they just keep on hiring him.
That's why he's your favorite. Some things never change. All right, let's move to what we have on our streaming spotlight. We went over to where'd we see this thing on? We saw it on a streaming platform.
Oh yeah,
Paramount Plus, maybe Prime.
I believe it is Netflix.
Okay, fair enough.
But I could be wrong. Just go to your thing and search it. It's Pet Sematary Bloodlines 2. A lot of people might not remember this because I barely did. We both barely remember this. But Pet Sematary made a reboot back in 2019 with Jonathan Lithgow. And we were really excited to see it. And then it was just kind of like, oh, well,
unnecessary.
Too bad Jonathan Lithgow is doing things like this. And I thought it was a dead franchise, didn't you?
Yeah, because I did not care for that movie.
So, out of the gate, this is what they thought we really needed. I'm guessing this is was mothballed, and they brought it out because of the writer's strike. That's my guess. Possibly. But here we are, back in Ludlow for Pet Cemetery Bloodline. That's a prequel to the other movie that I barely remember. Of course, written by original material is written by Stephen King, and yeah, I think that's all I'm going to mention. The director Chuck Russell.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
I just
directed by Lindsay Anderson Beer.
Lindsay Anderson Beer. Thank you very much.
Hey.
I just started using a Mac. I'm sorry. But this takes place in 1969. Young Judd Crandall has dreams of leaving his hometown. He's going to join Greenpeace, partly to get out of the war, but he doesn't really know that. It's something set up by his dad, but you don't need to know that because none of that is really that important.
He wants to run away with his girlfriend.
There is a piece of this movie I thought was really intelligent, and I wanted them to expand this because this kind of felt like a we don't do anything for our heroes when they come back from the war type movie. David Duchovny, he plays Timmy's dad. You see him right away burying something, and then we find out later he killed his dog, brought back his dog, which became creepy.
That's a Pet Cemetery
and
thing.
He brought back his son after a mishap that happens to, unfortunately, too many people who come back from war.
Because old Timmy's just wandering around in a not looking right.
No, but
not acting normal.
He's not like in the other movies where he's like all gravelly and stuff. He seems like he could just be suffering from PTSD really bad. But that's not a horror movie. Everybody knows. But anywho, so Judd, played by Jackson White, he finds his old friend Manny Rivers, played by Forrest Goodluck. And they don't get along very well. Manny's like, yeah, you're trying to leave us, blah, blah, blah. And Judd's like, hey, we got to help out Timmy. Timmy's having a hard streak. The dog had some problems and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it did.
And they go out there. They find a bunch of things. Later on, Norma, played by Natalie Allen Lidge, she gets into a mishap with said dog that I mentioned earlier. But really, this doesn't make much... It doesn't flow well.
Yeah.
I feel like it had a good idea for the story, implemented it really bad.
Yeah, it's messy. There's no cohesion in this movie at all.
So explaining the story is kind of blah.
Yeah, I mean, I thought there was a few gory scenes in here, kind of, but they don't really amount to anything with the movie.
No.
And there's no nuance to any of these characters. You said Timmy's got the interesting thing you could deal with, but there's no nuance to his character. He's just walking around like a zombie, basically.
Yeah.
I love Duchovny in pretty much everything he does. This, he wasn't given a whole lot. Him and Pam Grier and what's his name? Henry Thomas, Elliot from E.T.
No way, that's who it was?
That's Mr. Old Man Crandall. Yeah. They have a club that they've formed. They've sworn to fight this age-old enemy, and all that. But that doesn't amount to really anything either.
No, they do a little bit of backstory on it, which is so uninteresting.
Yeah, let's go back a couple centuries.
Yeah, let's go back a couple of centuries to when this first happened, and then for some reason, after all this horrific events, they decided to make a town anyhow.
Yeah, it was kind of ridiculous to me. It felt pointless. It didn't feel like there was any tension in this movie at all to me. I didn't feel like the original did to me. There's no. I didn't feel like there was a great message, and
there's even some cheap scenes that they could have brought that tension, like when Norma has to go through that tunnel.
Yes,
and you figured that would have been really creepy, but I was calm through the whole movie.
I felt like they were concerned with trying to fill in questions, like when we go back to the colonial times, trying to fill in questions that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
Rather than like ratcheting up tension, making this exciting. And I didn't really love any of the characters. The only character I really kind of liked was the character of Manny, the friend. I thought, what's his name? Peter Goodluck? Forrest Goodluck, sorry. I saw him earlier this year in a film called How to Blow Up a Pipeline, which he was great in.
Yeah.
I thought he was the only one who had kind of an interesting character in here because he's like torn, he's trying to fight, but they didn't give him enough either.
No. I mean, he had his whole sister problem, but they didn't really. Okay. I feel like one thing they could have fixed is actually give a little time to all these characters so we get to know who they are. We had
care about them for some reason?
You had the pack of people who already know what to do that you're talking about that Elliot was in.
Yeah.
There's 4 of them.
That was ridiculous to me because it's like you have Pam Grier, you got Duchovny, and you got Henry Thomas. Like, okay, we've created this pact. We've known forever that we're going to have to fight this thing at some point. Like, cool. And they're like, yeah, but we're not going to spend a whole lot of time with this. Don't worry about it. Like, that was kind of interesting in a movie that's not interesting.
I did get invested with Timmy's character, which I know is crazy because he really, they were like, hey, kid, just act creepy. Yeah. But I thought the other story that it could have been, I saw it. They didn't play it, but I saw it, and I thought Timmy played very good at being distraught and looking like he's hollow inside.
I just felt like this movie, at the end of the day, was an unnecessary. Who asked for because that reboot was not good.
No.
Who greenlight? Let's do a prequel to a movie that nobody really liked or cared about or even saw. I don't know how many people saw that one.
Well, the problem is a lot of the producers. They look at the money and they know that people will come in just because it says Pet Sematary.
Pet Sematary says Stephen King on the title. Let's do it.
And if you don't have good writers to make this actually a hit, don't bother.
This didn't have
anything.
And
the sad thing is it's probably going to make its money.
Oh, I hope not.
And that's just going to bring out a reboot or whatever.
It just never built to anything that I enjoyed. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It's disappointing because here we are with our spooktacular, a bunch of horror movies, and so far scores have been less than stellar. They're all sequels.
Do you think they'll reboot Salem's Lot again?
Oh my God.
I know, they haven't done that one in a while.
That's one of the few, yeah. Maybe. I feel like Stephen King can get anything he wants made. Even though he's funny because he's a guy who is constantly disavowing his projects that they make. You know, he hates pretty much every movie that they make, but he's very happy to cash those checks.
He had a recent project where he gave away one of his storylines to a young person who's inspiring to make a movie. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if Stephen King is actually cool, but I thought that was pretty spot on.
I think they'll remake Maximum Overdrive at some point.
No, and he hates that
I know
one.
He does. That's his only directorial film.
And if you could get Emilio to come back out of retirement.
Mighty Duck guy himself.
Emilio!
What did you end up giving Pet Sematary Bloodlines?
I gave it a 2, and the reason why it scored so immensely high was because I thought I saw something in there that really wasn't there.
Oh my God!
You got a 2 out of the whole deal.
You love this movie. I gave it 1.5. Yeah, not good.
Yeah.
Man, just some drowsy scores for these horror movies this week.
Hey, by the way, I haven't thanked you for having me come on the show again and do all these
You're
movies.
very welcome. Welcome back, buddy. Why did you ever leave?
Partly sarcasm, but mostly I do enjoy doing the show. I was telling him in the parking lot after Saw, it's like, this is the fun part right here, and this is the part that I miss.
Yeah. Let's move ahead, sir, with what we have on our movie throwback this week. I'm going to 1987 for a sequel that I did enjoy. It is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors.
Score by Dokken.
Oh, man, that Dawkins song is eternal. It's the film that turned the dark dream world of the first two films kind of upside down and gave Freddy a little more, I don't know, he learned to be more outrageous and give him more one-liners and kind of more of a character. He's kind of a rascal from here on out. And this film features, we bring back Nancy Thompson's character after trying to move away from her in 2. Now she's working in a hospital where Patricia Arquette's character is admitted, suffering from terrors, and she's a counselor for all these kids who are being haunted by Freddy, and she leads them into the dream world to fight Freddy. And there's some amazing effects, the stop-motion animation Freddy.
It was a very... Okay, this is going to sound morbid, but really creative kills.
Yes.
In the past 2 movies, the first one is supposed to be iconic. When I watched it, it felt a little blah. The second one was a departure trying to do a little something different with the original content. Didn't really land. This one, this was a fantastic movie. This actually made, like you said, made Freddy's character the one we're all so familiar with.
The wisecracking Freddy Krueger.
And it didn't matter the story. It just mattered what Freddy Krueger did. It was so great.
This might be my favorite of the franchise.
If it wasn't for this movie, we wouldn't have had Nightmare on Elm Street, the TV show, which I thought was fantastic. Loved him in that, where he just opened it up and he's in a pizza place cooking people. I'm not really that morbid, but...
it's all right. Well, it's not you. It's Jackie Daytona.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this movie. I watched it this week again, and I was very happy. And it took me right back to being 10 years old, loving this movie.
It's epic, too. There's a lot of story in this as well.
There is. There's a lot. They pack a lot in. And, of course, like I said, the Dokken song, man. It's so great. I got me listening to that the day afterwards.
Rockin' with Dokken.
You better believe that.
Whatever happened to Dokken? Probably because that was their only song. That was
could
a
be.
hit.
Yeah, we're going to get letters now.
Yeah.
Mike hates Dokken.
Like Paul Oakenfold. What did he make? One song. That's it.
But check it out if you haven't. If you're one of those people that's doing like the 31 days of horror movies, whatever, make sure to put this one on your list. Watch this one before Halloween comes because it's a great one. Sit the kids down.
Yeah.
And then just deal with the fallout from that.
Is it a kids movie?
Not even a little bit.
I don't know. Things are kind of crossing that line for kids movies lately.
It stars kids, so it must be a kids movie.
Exactly.
You've seen Boys or any of these other things. They all
Boys?
If it's got a kid in it.
The NC-17? No, that's kids.
Kids. Same thing. Starred kids.
All kids.
Show it to kids. All right, let's move ahead and take a look at what is coming soon, sir. I'm looking at the weekend of October the 20th.
Nice.
We got a bunch of films. First one in theaters, Killers of the Flower Moon, 3-hour, 26-minute adventure from Martin Scorsese, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Jesse Plemons, Brendan Fraser, a bunch of indigenous actors, and it's this retelling of the Osage tribe being exploited and murdered when oil is found on their land.
How long have you been waiting?
2 years. This has been on my most anticipated list since 2021. They just keep pushing it back.
I so hope you didn't build it up so much, then it becomes Exorcist.
I'm terrified of that.
Yeah.
Because it might be true. We also have a musical from A24, their first musical ever. It's a film called Dix the Musical, about rivals who discover their twins and pull a parent swap in this R-rated musical. We also have a film called The Canterville Ghost, an animated film about a family that moves into a country manor that has been haunted by a ghost for 300 years. Over on Netflix, we have Old Dads, about 3 guys who become fathers late in life. Hilarity ensues as they try to navigate the modern child-rearing world as Old Dads stars Bill Burr, Bobby Cannavale, and Bokeem Woodbine.
That doesn't sound like fun.
Who? We also have Cobweb, a Hulu horror thriller in which an 8-year-old boy tries investigating the sounds coming from the walls in his home. Something's going on in those walls. We also have The Pigeon Tunnel over on Apple TV. It's an Errol Morris film. He is our greatest living documentarian. Just go check it out. And then lastly, this one's right up your alley. Over on Hulu, we have Slotherverse.
Woo!
A murderous sloth rampages through a sorority house.
I still haven't seen Cocaine Bear. I feel...
That's a good 1-2 punch right there. There's a double feature for you kids. We want to thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters, of course. Thank you for sponsoring this program. We love sitting in Dream Lounge, especially when you run into an old friend of yours while you walk in there.
If you see Tom, say hello and thank you because he's awesome.
He is. Tom is great. We love him. Speaking of people I love, Mike Roth. I'm so glad you came back.
Well, thank you very much. It gave me an excuse to do this because I've been wanting to do this for a while.
I love it.
And I could say I'm the first who was Jackie Daytona of everybody I know.
You're the first one that I know.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I met someone this weekend. They were like, "I'm going to be Jackie Daytona,"
You
and
punched
he
him
was
in the mouth.
No, he was like, "Who else was going to pick that?" I'm like, "Me."
Yeah. All right. Until next week, when I am joined by Jeff Robbins to talk about Taylor Swift, among other things.
Woohoo!
I'm Jameson.
I'm Mike Roth.
Thanks for watching.